There's never been a better time to have SiriusXM. With over 140 channels in your vehicle, your all-access trial includes more than ever before to enjoy online, on your phone, or at home. Create your own ad-free personalized stations powered by Pandora. Hear ad-free extra channels and enjoy favorite shows with SiriusXM Video on Demand. What you love is on now.
So we're talking about marine audio this week, and of course, we can't be talking about marine audio if we're not including our friends at Hertz Marine Audio, of course, owned by Electromedia in Italy, who also is responsible for high-end brands such as Audison. They have a complete line that we're going to go through today, and we even have their expert in the house, in the studio with us today, Ken Ward, who will be joining us. So we're going to be talking about marine audio, in specific, Hertz Marine Audio, on this session of CMA Connected, presented by SiriusXM. Hertz Audio Marine starts now. So welcome to another session of Connected here on CMA Networks. Thanks for joining us. I want to remind you, if you're discovering us for the first time, make sure you check out our website, cmanetworks.com. We've got hundreds of videos that are easily searchable by category or by brand or even by trainer. So go ahead and check that out. Today, as mentioned, we are focused on Hertz Marine, part of our Marine Sessions programming. And we're going to start with their Canadian distributor, who's a good friend of ours, Mr. Steve Colomb from Automobility. Come on to the studio, Steve.
Hello, Ben.
Mr. Colomb, thanks for joining us today.
How's it going?
Oh, it's going great. We kicked off yesterday the Marine Sessions, and obviously when it came to Marine, there was no doubt Hertz has to have a footprint here because, of all the brands that we're presenting, Hertz represents something pretty unique. It's a European brand, right, from the Audison Electromedia family, and it's been taking Marine pretty seriously as we saw the developments since Automobility took over the distribution in Canada. So really happy to have you on today, Steve, and seeing that relationship between Automobility and Electromedia continues to flourish.
Yeah, thank you for having us. Yeah, exactly. Another great year ahead, and looking forward to it. We're ready.
So, Marine in Canada is a very seasonal, market, of course. So, dealers have to really take advantage of that when it happens. And this is why we're kind of presenting this stuff here today. We've invited Ken Ward, who'll be joining us in a minute. I thought it'd be a good idea, Steve. We have a video that we can play to kind of set the mood so people understand, the philosophy and the look and feel of what Hertz Marine is about. What do you think?
Sure. Roll it.
All right, let's roll the tape. You know, Steve, for me, it feels like they made that video for me. Like literally my two favorite things in the world, cars and boats, in the same video. So I totally connect with that video.
I agree. No, it's a very nice video, and it represents pretty much what Hertz is about. You know.
Absolutely, because there's no. I mean, a little bit later on in the season, we're gonna have a session where we're gonna dive into the Hertz, car audio catalog. But today, we're gonna strictly keep it on the water with the marine products. And of course, without further ado, we're gonna go ahead and invite the International Technical Marketing Manager of Electromedia. Yes, I got it all in there. Mr. Ken Ward is joining us today to help us out.
Hey,
Hello,
guys.
Ken.
Hey, good job, Ben. That was a big breath you took for that.
I had to breathe in, and then I'm probably gonna have to say that a couple times this year, so I'm gonna practice that as much as I can. But thanks for joining us today, Ken.
Thanks for having us.
So we're here. We're talking about marine. Hertz, of course, big player in the game. And from that visual that we just got, I was trying to express the uniqueness that Hertz has in the category, especially here in North America, right? A lot of great brands presenting during these marine sessions, but certainly some, there's a little bit of European flair, which is very attractive to many customers when it comes to something that's been designed literally in Italy.
There's some folks that like to talk about how I go down to the lake, and the folks in Italy are probably a frisbee throw from the Mediterranean. There's plenty of rivers in Europe, but there are a number of saltwater customers there as well, and so they have a view of marine audio that's a little bit different than the folks that are in the States.
Yeah, and it's evident. I know we're going to go through pretty much an overview of all the products that are available, but it's a complete line. And I want to start with that. Like, we're not talking about just a component here or there. In fact, arguably one of the most complete audio lines that are available right now in the market.
Marine audio now is a little bit like car audio was about 20 years ago. If you had a way to order a product that you could put your logo on, you could get into the business. If you visit the headquarters in Italy, I was struck by how many senior level R&D people are dedicated to marine. The commitment from a corporate point of view is really significant. It is not a sideline. And it is treated just as seriously as car, just as seriously as our pro audio division. And so then like you pointed out, the speakers are something that we feel really invested in, because with our speaker manufacturing and with our speaker development in-house, that's something that we've put a lot of resources into. But we also have head units. We also have amplifiers. We have DSP. We're one of the only companies with marine DSP. So it is a really significant catalog.
Yeah, I mean, just to check off all the boxes and just to confirm, Automobility is carrying the entire lineup, correct, Steve?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
So we're talking source units, drivers, full range coaxials in different trim levels, tower speakers, right? Subwoofers, amplifiers, source, and even
the LED controller.
Pardon?
You got to have an LED controller.
And an LED controller. You're not a real. Let's be honest. You're not a real marine audio brand if you don't have an LED controller. It is what it is. That's a big part of the game. So Automob is the Canadian distributor. If you're tuning in from outside of Canada, of course, you can deal directly with. Is it Electromedia USA, Ken? That's who it is.
That's in the States, yes.
That's in the States. All right. So regardless of where you're tuning in from, we're going to be talking some product, and we're going to go deep diving right now with Ken and Steve about the product. So let's go ahead and pull up your presentation, Ken, and let's get into it.
So, we're known for mobile. That's how a lot of people know us, and our subwoofers and our car speakers. And then we're going to talk about marine today. Power sport and marine for us are together because there's a lot of cross application that happens there. And then there's the Mediterranean I was talking about. And then we won't talk about motorcycle today, but that's some of the technology is shared in terms of making things weather resistant. This is our manufacturing facility, the La Voce speaker manufacturing facility in China. And we are the 100% owners of that. The first time I heard that story, I didn't believe it, because it's really rare for companies to be sole owners of a manufacturing plant in China. It probably wouldn't happen if we were an American company, but we are the owners of Lavoce, and this is where all of our marine and car and pro audio speakers are manufactured.
So just to be clear, that statement right there, you're talking about Lavoce, all the drivers that are produced under the Electromedia brand are all made in-house by a proprietary manufacturing plant?
Yes, they're engineered in-house, they're manufactured in-house, they're tested, and I should mention that our Lavoce Pro Audio division does make drivers for various speaker manufacturers.
Okay, so never is there a case where you're grabbing from a catalog and stamping your logo on it.
That is definitely a fair description.
Very good.
In fact, if as a marketing person I try to play Mr. Potato Head and say I'd like this speaker with a different grill on it, that usually doesn't fly internally. I don't know of a case where it has. Everything is purpose specific and developed from the ground up. Now that said, we don't make anybody else's marine speakers. We don't make anybody else's car speakers. We do sell Lavoce drivers for use in pro audio applications to various companies. But when it comes to our car and our marine speakers, they are only for us.
Exclusive. Very nice.
So I love this shot because it has it captures a lot of different areas that we add value. I'm going to go into each of these in turn. This came from a conversation with a friend of mine who is a marine dealer, and he said that all manufacturers seem to be jumping into marine audio, but if you're going to be serious, you need four things. You need to have great tower speakers. You need to have great oversized coaxials, because there's a lot of companies with a 6.5-inch marine coaxial that, like you said, I suspect they may have ordered from a catalog. You need to have great infinite baffle subwoofers, and in Europe, infinite baffle subwoofers have a long history. In North America, we tend to like sealed and vented subwoofers, and a lot of companies haven't done that much with IB in the past. And then you need actual marine grade electronics, both in your source and in your amplification. And we have all four of those. Hertz is a player in each of those groups. So that said, one thing that our company has been committed to since the very early days is design. And if you're a dealer, I hope you can appreciate how important design is to any customer, but especially to a marine customer. Marine customers have invested a lot in the look of their boat, and boats look very different. And a lot of times they chose a look they specifically wanted. And we need to provide equipment that has an industrial design that doesn't let down the appearance of their boat. I love to think of Apple in this regard, where design is not how something looks, it's how it works. And let me go ahead and show you some of the things that we did here. This is an example. I believe this is our HMX series coax. I think this is the original grill. It's a stainless steel mesh grill. It's not just stamped metal. And the logo here is actually cast aluminum. It is not plastic. The hex screws that come in the kit are all stainless steel. Now, these seem like small things, but if first of all, a lot of installations for marine take place at the marina. They don't take place in the shop. So it's really important that your equipment have hardware in it that you can use. But we want the value of our product to be apparent when you see it. And that's something Apple's been really good at. Some audio product might sound great, but when you look at it, it's a little scary. And we want to make sure that we install confidence when you look at the product. There's also a black version, and all of our marine gear for speakers is available both ways. Also, like we joked about the lighting earlier, but it's really important that the lighting in the boat match a theme and that it do what the client wants it to do.
Ken, so, I was surprised that the lighting was not one of those 4 items that you highlighted earlier, because I mean, I don't know of any successful marine audio company that doesn't have really good lighting.
I think at this point, having LED for marine is kind of like the background noise from the Big Bang. It's just always there, right? We can't escape it. So we've got the integrated RGB LEDs, and in this case, we've got the polypropylene cover that diffuses the light, because it's really important that you don't allow the LEDs to look like pinpoint light sources. And so we've spent a good amount of time on that for various products. Now, there is a controller, and gives you full control over what color you want, and the works on RF. It's a pretty standard type controller, but it does work with all of our speakers, and it allows you to perfectly dial in the color. And of course, if you want it to beat, you can do that. Now,
With the
when we
lights,
talk about
yeah.
nature proof, and this is really something that it's kind of being taken for granted by some of the newer entrants into the category. Those folks who have been in marine for a while have bought a product that didn't last out on the water. So we do, and I apologize, I have not memorized all of the IP certification numbers, although we do have them in our catalog for review. A lot of our product is water jet and salt fog tested. A lot of our product is UV resistant. We spent some of the same, we worked on some of the same technologies that we used in our motorcycle coaxials to vibration isolate the drivers in the speakers. And then, of course, we've actually tested in thermal chambers. We've got the stainless steel, we've tested the corrosion. So this is a very serious area. And I think I've mentioned in the past that we consider this product to be OEM grade. And we do have some OEM customers, and they expect this level of certification and testing, and they've been very happy with what we bring to the table in that regard. So they're tough customers, and we're happy that they've accepted what we're doing. Now, the tower speakers, oversized tower speakers are one of the four that I mentioned, and this is the HTX8, and they are available in white and black. Hey, look, IP65. See, I've got a cheat sheet right there. And so that's water jet testing, UV testing, and salt fog. And like I said, they're on the Mediterranean, so they're not going to be just freshwater focused. Now, this speaker, I love this shot here. You can see how many screws there are on the front grille. And you can see how many screw holes there are on this spacing ring. You can rotate that grill in 1/64th increments to get all the grills to line up. And if you've got 4 of these on a bar, and they're all at different angles, I'm sure that would drive you crazy, Ben. It would drive me crazy.
Oh, my OCD would just
not
kill
have
me.
the grills line up. So
yeah, and I gotta say that's interesting. Not there's tower speakers that have the back logo adjustable, but not so much adjustability on the front side. So that's interesting. That's conducive with the style that they have for the grill, being the horizontal grill style. So that'd be nice.
yes, we do have both ends adjustable, absolutely. And then you can see the passive crossover in here. And that passive crossover, you can see the size of the parts. It's a big passive crossover with a high quality disconnect. We're not worried about soldered wires to a board breaking off. And we're going to talk about that crossover a little bit, because that's part of the technology that we bring to the higher output. Now, this clamp, you can't see much of the clamp, and so I'm going to go to the next slide in a moment to talk about the clamp. But we actually, let's go ahead and do that now. So the wires go through the clamp, of course, but there's a disconnect right here. And you can actually take the speakers off the clamp. If you are mooring someplace where you're not that comfortable with where you're mooring, you can actually unbolt and unplug the speakers and take them out of the craft with you.
Does that require any tools?
I think it requires 1 Allen, if I remember correctly.
Okay.
And so this is sort of the pull-out technology from the 80s brought back to the
This is the faceplate on a tower speaker.
If you've got a boat on the dock, it's very vulnerable. So We think this solves a problem that a few folks have had.
You know, if you're just running one, that's one thing. But in all these boat setups, it's minimum 2, if not 4, is kind of like the standard. And you know, at the price point of each one of these, yeah, that adds up pretty quick for a quick theft.
So the aluminum in here is the highest grade aluminum for this sort of application that there is, and it is an incredibly beefy clamp. Now, I don't think you have one of these there, do you, Steve?
I do actually. I have the other version though, the FL, which has the flat surface mount.
Oh, that's right, because we do accommodate different shapes of bar.
Mm-hmm.
So as you can see, it's a pretty big boy.
That's right. I actually saw a video yesterday where somebody put 4 of those in a side-by-side. Oh my god.
That's interesting. Hey, can we zoom in on Steve for a second? I want to see the details of the size of that can, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and get Steve on the screen. There we are.
So as you can see, it's a pretty massive, and attention to detail. I left on purpose. There's a protective plastic wrapping around it, so even inside the packaging, you see the detail. Attention to detail. So
yeah, the last
because that's a high gloss finish, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Very cool.
All right. So we. Oops, I have 2 touchpads on my desk. That was confusing. So we also have HMX oversized coaxials, and there's some technology here I want to talk about that is throughout the speaker line. The way here of our 8-inch coaxial, and the tweeter in this case is a 1.4-inch tweeter that we developed ourselves. You can see that there is an inductor here on the side. That's part of the integrated crossover. Now, most car audio coaxials don't have an inductor anywhere in them. They'll just have a capacitor on the tweeter. That's not something we can really afford to do in high power applications. So let me see here. Top performance. This was something that was required internally. If we were going to enter the marine market, we were not allowed to do a Me Too sort of entrance. So there's the standard speaker measurement in a standard size panel, and you put the speaker, or sorry, you put the microphone in front of the speaker. And this is analogous to standing in front of a display board and listening to speakers in a display board when they are pointed at you. And you can see this blue line here is a top competitor that we measured in the marine selection. And then here is ours. And you can see that starting at about 2K, we have higher output. In fact, I think depending on the exact frequency, it averages out around 6 dB. And 6 dB, you know, that's 4 times the power. You would have to apply 4 times the power. Now, this is important for 2 reasons. One is we are not in a car. In a car, we get a lot of high frequency reflection off the inside of the glass. And that's reflected in how we recommend that you tune cars. But in a boat, we don't have that. It's easy to lose that high frequency. So let me show you why this becomes even more important. So that same speaker, we took the microphone and we measured it 45 degrees off axis, which is a pretty good approximation of the kind of sound you're going to get when you put that 8-inch coaxial in a bulkhead. And it's often at shin level or knee level in the craft. So that top competitor suddenly has a big dip. Now let me explain what's happening here. Any cone speaker, when it's pointed at us, has better high frequencies than when it's off axis. So this area here is probably coming out of, it's almost undoubtedly coming out of the 8-inch cone. And here is where the tweeter is taking over. So the tweeter is not being allowed to play very low, because it's really important that if your tweeter can't play low, that you don't allow it to blow up in the field. Sure, we can all understand that. We're really confident in how low our tweeter plays. And so you can see here that our tweeter helps out quite a bit lower. And as a result, we have a lot more linear sound in this really important area.
Can I ask a question, Ken?
Absolutely.
These tweeters you're referring to, these are dome tweeters. These are not horn compression tweeters.
Correct. These are dome tweeters. And that's generally what is in a speaker that's bulkhead mounted. I know that some companies have compression drivers in towers, but in this case, we're talking about the bulkhead speakers that you can put
And do you believe this drastic difference in performance is because of the design of the proprietary tweeter and also the way you're crossing it over internally?
Yes. The crossover isn't any amazing technology. It's just that you can't cross it over that low without a tweeter that can handle it. And you
Gotcha.
also, in order to cross it over, when you build a passive crossover, the lower the frequency, the larger the components. So we literally have to spend more money to make
bigger
coils
components
and
fit.
buy capacitors that will cross over the speaker at a lower point. So
Are
there is significant investment here to get this difference. And at some frequencies, it's 3 dB. At some frequencies, it's up to 9 dB. But that means that it's at least equivalent to doubling your amplifier power.
So what does this mean, though? Better off-axis performance means better sound in a boat?
Yes. It means better sound in the boat, given where you're going to install your speakers. If you're listening to them in a display board, this won't make that kind of impact. When you listen to them in the boat, that's where you have to live with them. And just like in cars, this is something we take really seriously.
All right. Very interesting slide.
So we have HMX and HEX product lines. And HMX is the product line that has the oversized coaxial. It also has a 6.5-inch coaxial. They have a similar family of appearance in both the white and the black models. Now, we have a line below that called HEX, and these are paintable grills. And I think they just revised that grill. And I think Steve has an example of this available.
All right, let's go to Steve.
Let's go take it to Steve.
This is a very nice looking coax right now.
Yeah, look at that.
So that color is not in the image that you showed there, Ken, unless that was painted colors.
Those are painted colors.
Okay,
That's right.
gotcha.
This is out of the box.
Yeah,
and you can
nice
see
finish.
the LED lights, the wiring's integrated.
Yeah.
Very nice.
So that is something that exists on both our marine and our power sports side. They get installed in a lot of smaller boats, and they also get installed in a lot of side-by-side type applications.
Okay.
So now we have a line of, well, we have a 10-inch subwoofer. Later this year, it will get a friend. But right now, we have a 10-inch subwoofer in white and in black. It's an infinite baffle subwoofer.
By friend, sorry, I'm gonna have to cut you. You can't slide that in and then kind of go past that. Did you say friend as in another color grill, or friend as in like a bigger brother?
Like a bigger brother.
Okay.
But like I mentioned on Wednesday, we have a 12-month product release schedule. We're an international company, and so we don't set up our product development in an asymmetric way. We just introduce products throughout the year. So source units. This one is a really complex topic, and we have a number of source units, and I'm sure we have more coming late in the year and next year as well. The HMR10 is a classic size source unit. There's not a lot of fresh technology in this one. In the picture, it says DAB plus because this is a picture of the European model with digital audio broadcasting. We don't do that in North America, so ours doesn't say that. But it fits in the standard grill opening, and you can see the heatsink on the back for deck power. Now, the HMR15 is a little more modern appearance. It's very similar to the 10, but it is squared off with rounded corners. Same sort of concept. And it has USB 2.0, an aux input. It has AM, FM built in. It does have Bluetooth 5.0. And it has 3 preset EQs. And these are not 3 preset EQs that came with the chip that we used in it. We actually defined those. They are different than other companies. IP66 rated, and it's a very attractive head unit. Now, my favorite right now is the 20, and the 20.
Oh, this is the step up.
This one has it's USB 2.0 as well, and it has a sub out. It has a 3-inch full color IPS display that's really, really sharp, and it has 2 zones plus the sub. So you can run a bow zone and a stern zone, and then have the subwoofer working with both, and you have two different volume controls very easily available, plus the subwoofer level control. It will tell you your voltage, so you don't accidentally kill the battery, and it does have it has 4 different preset EQs. If you use this in conjunction with our DSP Marine amplifier, our DSP Marine amplifier supports the zones going through. So you can actually have multiple zone volume control from the head unit plus subwoofer level control from the head unit, and then DSP process it, and you don't lose that.
So this is the entry one to get the DSP incorporated into it, though.
Actually,
the other ones don't do that, right?
The way we do it is the DSP zones are supported on the input of our DSP amplifier. So these work together, but it's not proprietary. So you can connect it. Works on an RCA level.
Gotcha.
You got one of those, Steve?
Yeah, right here.
Let's go to Steve.
Also comes with a protective. I'm not sure if you can see it.
I was just gonna say, hey, that one doesn't have a lot of buttons on it. Okay.
Yeah, it's a new flat black edition.
Yeah.
No, it has a cover on it, so it protects it from.
No, absolutely. For Marine, that's really cool.
So.
And this is a great sounding
it's
head
not
unit.
too deep either. Not too deep.
Yeah.
We use these in a number of our displays as the source unit, and they sound great.
Okay. And they see all the outputs there. Yep.
Yeah.
All RCA level.
You can see how that connector is sealed. It's a Marine connector.
Yeah.
So
it's very nice that the RCA input outputs are bundled up together, you know.
Mm-hmm. Very cool.
Yeah, finding one, you find both, which takes a lot of time when you're reaching up underneath the dad.
No kidding. No, that's the first time I've seen a rubber faceplate cover. That's cool. Good feature. It doesn't seem like much, but that added value that you can sell through the customer, right? So.
And that required a tool. It's not an inexpensive part to make, but we use them when we transport our displays for shows, and they work great.
And to be clear, this is not a touch screen or tactile screen. These are hard buttons, right?
This one is not a touch screen. Our concern with touchscreen has been if you get one drop of water on it out on the water, then it doesn't know which one's your finger and which one's the water. So what we do here is we have a zone button, and when you hit the zone button, it pulls up both volumes for both zones and the sub all together. And then toggling through your sources, that's not a big deal because just about everybody just streams from their phone. But the amount of information you get here, if you're plugged into USB, if you're muted, what the voltage is, what you're playing, and if Bluetooth is on, that's the painted on logo. My bad. And you can see how far you are through the song. It's a really nice looking display.
Okay.
And it will match all the other RGB lighting because gotta have your lighting tied in.
Gotta have it.
Got to match.
Got to match.
So here's one of my favorites, even though, and I think you've even asked me this, Ben, I think you've actually said the words, why would you have DSP in a boat?
Yeah, I mean, I asked the question because people have asked me the question, right? They're like, wait, hold on a second. I get it, Ben. DSP, really important in the car. I want my sound stage. I want it up high. I want the singer sitting on my, the middle of my dash and all. But I'm in my boat. I'm in open air. There's no walls. Okay, maybe you have a yacht. Not all of us have yachts that you want to have perfect staging in a room, maybe. But for all intents purposes, it's open air. So
I think it's reasonable to say that stereo imaging isn't a primary component of the marine experience. And a lot of the music that gets played on the boat doesn't really have stereo imaging. A lot of it has a club sound with a lot of low end. And it's not, we're not trying to create imaging. That's one of the.
We were trying to create fun. We want a party atmosphere. I mean, that's, you know what I mean? That's what boats are all about.
I think if you can't get your marine system loud, none of the rest matters. And that's a really important point, I think, for DSP. And this is something I've been talking about for about the last year and a half for all DSP applications. I have this set of charts or graphs that I won't take you through right now. But what it essentially shows is we get a lot of people who say, my customer doesn't want DSP, they just want to get loud. And I say, really? Let me show you how you're wasting 3 to 6 dB or more of your customer's amplifier power because you're not using DSP. And it turns out that when you have multiple speakers playing the same sound, and in a boat, that happens a lot, right? You've got a lot of speakers playing the same sound.
In weird
If
places.
you've got a lot of speakers playing the same sound and they're different distances from you, they can interfere. And in a car, most of what we do for DSP tuning is using delay and setting it up for one person, the driver. Now, in a boat, if you go by yourself, you know, that's pretty rare. Once
pretty
people find
sad
out you have a
too.
boat,
Like,
you have friends, right?
Like, I mean,
So we have the ability to manage cancellations, and that's how I call it in car. That's what I call it in boat. Managing cancellations.
So before you go too far, Ken, I just want so everybody understands who's listening in. What you're proposing or what you're saying is because of the environment and the position of the speakers and all that, the maximum output, or you're not harnessing the power that your customer is paying for in the amplifiers to achieve that volume, because you're not managing the type of cancellation that's happening, because cancellation eliminates volume.
And thanks for underlining that, Ben, because I didn't really tee this up the way that I usually do when I'm doing this training. I ask everybody who's put 2 subs in a box, and almost everybody raises their hand. And then I say, who hooked one up backwards? And most people raise their hand kind of sheepishly because they don't want to admit it. And I ask them what happened, and they said, oh, the bass disappeared. And I said, that's how you know that cancellation can ruin what you're trying to do. Now, could you fix it just by playing it louder? And they say, no. I said, did you fix it by going and turning up the 45 hertz bass boost control on the amplifier? And they say, no. And I said, right, because we cannot EQ out phase cancellations. So whether we're doing cars or boats, what the consciousness for DSP, I think, is starting to shift from could I win a contest to is my customer enjoying this and having fun? And obviously, having fun requires you to be able to turn it up once in a while. I think that's pretty standard. So I'm going to show you a couple of screenshots of our Hmd8 Dsp. And this is a D-class amp. It's 85 watts by 8 and into 4 ohms. If you bridge it, I think it's 260 watts by 4. So that's a pretty loud 4-channel amplifier right there. And you can run 3 zones through it. It is the first product that we have brought to market with fully adjustable input and output routing. So you can set it up to your head unit to say, okay, zone 1 is going to be the bow, zone 2 is going to be the stern, the sub's going to be independent, and route it however you like. Obviously, it has crossovers and time alignment, and it allows you to select either a graphic EQ or a parametric EQ. Now, some of the tools are under the parametric EQ menu, and that's my favorite. I love changing the parameters of my EQ. Excuse me. So if you've ever seen Audison software, you look at this and you say, this is not like Electromedia products I've seen before in a different brand. A lot of our longtime dealers got excited about installing this amplifier and didn't read the manual. Now, if you're in this situation, if you go to install one of these and you're like, what do I do? You can see that there's a question mark in each of these little functional blocks. And don't tell anybody, but when you click on that question mark, it actually opens up the inline help section to explain to you how the memories work, how the zones work, how the crossovers work, how the delay works. It's actually reading the manual, but don't tell anyone.
But don't tell anybody.
So here's all our RCA inputs. We can actually go in and define exactly where each of those will come out. You see how these are color-coded here?
Mm-hmm.
Now, one of the problems that everybody seems to have when we're tuning a DSP is we're trying to get better sound out of channel 5, and we are accidentally tuning channel 3 because we made a mistake. So what this software does, you can see here, channel 1 is selected and it's red. Because we have channel 1 selected, this is red. I'm sorry, you probably can't see my cursor.
Oh, yeah, we can. We see your cursor.
Okay, great. So you can see here that the delay numbers are red, that the EQ slider numbers are red, that this little
I see
graph
what you're
here
saying.
showing
It's
you
all
the
color
EQ
coordinated.
is red. If you change to another channel, all those colors change. And this is a really handy way to reduce the common mistakes that people make when they're tuning and setting up a DSP. Now, let's see here. Crossovers are pretty standard. Delay is pretty cool. There's actually a pop-out window where you enter all the distances at once if you're using delay. My experience is you don't use delay much in bows. Delay
Right.
is
I don't see
primarily
the
for
reason for it.
off-center listening. If you go in here and you select the parametric adjustment, then you can actually do phase equalization using first and second order all pass filters, which is a little advanced for some of us, but it's the best way to manage cancellations in a multi-listener situation.
So there is no adjustment of phase on this initial menu. You do have to go into the parametric EQ to handle that.
Yes. What we have found is that if somebody requires a graphic EQ, they aren't looking for bells and whistles beyond that. So I don't think I have a capture in here of the parametric EQ. I'll find out in just a sec. Now you can see here that you got different volume levels for different groupings, which is separate from zones, which is pretty cool. And then you have an overall master volume control that you can set things to while you're tuning. Now let's see here. Look, parametric. So when you're in parametric, we've got a new user interface here that involves this really cool thing called a knob. Now, it's not an actual physical knob, but it looks like a knob, and so we don't get a lot of questions about how it works. You got a gain slider up and down. You grab this knob and you click and turn it to the frequency you want, and you can grab this knob and turn it to the bandwidth you want. You don't have to touch those two. If you don't want to, you can just use this like you just click on the band you want and slide the slider up and down. But you see this little button here that looks like an EQ peak? That's because it's an EQ peak. But if you click on it, it will allow you to select different things like a shelf filter, a notch filter, or phase adjustments. And for those of you following along at home, a first order all pass filter is like flipping the polarity above or below a certain frequency. And a second order all pass filter is flipping the polarity within a defined range of notes. So it's a pretty powerful tool, and it's something that is much more apparent how to use in a boat, in my mind, than in some car applications.
I would expect the real-time sound of that to be like really noticeable.
Yep, I've actually done remote tuning for a couple of instances where I said, okay, we're going to turn this on, and I've heard whoa.
Volume.
Sometimes it was a good whoa, and sometimes it was a bad whoa, depending on whether it was a good idea. But that allows us to make sure that all the speakers are in phase with each other, and that's the most important part of high output sound. Now, let's see. Here is an expanded view of using the EQ. It happens to be in graphic mode, but it could be in either mode. And I don't think I have a picture of this, but if you have a USB microphone, or if you have a 16-bit USB sound card and a measurement microphone, there is a real-time analyzer, an acoustic real-time analyzer built into the Hmd8 software. And this has been there for a few years. Some folks missed it, but we introduced built-in EQ RTA combined years ago. And what happens is all your bars are right here on the same graph as your EQ window. So you can move these sliders up and down and see the effect on the RTA as you're watching. Now, one of the biggest things that this is good for is not necessarily adjusting your EQ. One of the biggest things that it's good for is playing your subwoofer and playing your cabin speakers and making sure they are in phase at the crossover point. You don't want to have a situation where your big subwoofers are fighting and canceling out your big coaxes or your tower speakers.
But in real time, Ken, that would sound really obvious and sloppy, no? In the mid to the low end?
The mid bass tends to disappear. And what a lot of folks do when they try to get their mid bass back is use their EQ. And as we talked about,
try to boost those frequencies in the mid range.
And then it doesn't work. And then they say, oh man, I hate RTAs. And so what we're making sure that people are aware of is if the mid bass is there when the sub isn't playing, if the sub bass is there when the mid bass isn't playing, but when you play both of them, you get a dip, that's not an EQ problem. That's a phase cancellation problem. And there's other tools to address that, like flipping the polarity, like delay, and like phase equalization. Now here you can see that we can select any of these channels on the right as the channel that we're viewing in this window. But once again, if you're doing a boat installation, if you're doing a marine installation, you're often not doing it in your shop. Some shops can fit a boat, and sometimes customers bring you their boat, but sometimes you're going out to the marina and you're doing
not the bigger boats can. The bigger boats aren't being delivered to your shop.
Yes,
and
you're not getting a yacht into the shop. And
exactly.
so having this tool integrated is something that the dealers who have used it have given us very positive feedback about it being built in. You can actually see this little microphone icon up at the top. Oh, and that's another thing that I should mention. This software uses an approach that we are building into our future software products as well. We are an international company. So we have Europe, we have a lot of European business. We obviously have business in Canada. We need to be able to support various languages. But what we want to do, instead of just having a lot of different languages that you can select, is we want to start using icons, which is how a lot of smartphone apps are working. If you are looking at an icon and you're not clear on what it is, you can hover over it. And this is obviously not a live software demo, so it's not going to work for me here. But if you hover your cursor over the icon for, I think, 1.5 seconds or 2 seconds, a label will pop up in the language you selected telling you what that button does. So if I hovered over this microphone button, it would tell me it was for the analyzer. If I hovered over this magic wand button, and no, I wasn't immediately clear that that was a magic wand, but if you hover over the magic wand button, that's our setup wizard.
Question. Does that mean this entire software is available in French?
That is a really good question, and I haven't checked. But
I know
that that's our plan, is to offer versions of it in all the
I would imagine if you're doing international, it'll be, English, French, Spanish. Those are a couple of the main ones. So that'd be interesting to find out if we could circle back on that, because I don't believe there is a single other DSP interface software available in French that I know of, especially Marine. It's so limited. But I mean,
thought
DSP
French was available in some of our other products, but I'm going to have to circle back on that one and check it. Now that the tooltip or info tip function, where you can have the label pop up after you hover over it, plus the inline help, I think that this DSP is the easiest DSP to sort out for folks that are not conversant with DSP, especially if you're doing it away from your computer. Your dockside, you're on board. You've got more support embedded in this app than in any app I've tried.
Okay.
So this is something I call the radar screen. And this is something I really like to explain, because we're used to looking at a picture of a car and entering in the distances to the car, or distances within the car to each of the speakers. But the shapes of boats are much more varied, and the size of boats are much more varied than in cars. So what we decided to do was, remember how the channels are color coded? You can see the color coding right down here. Well, when you first look at the radar screen, all the speakers are stacked on top of each other, and the red one for channel 1 is on the top. And you grab it, you click on it, and you drag it, and up here it will tell you how far away you are from the center, which is intended to be the primary listening position if that's how you're setting up delay. So you just grab each of the speakers and pull them to the proper distance, and you're done. It's the fastest way to set delay. Now, it throws some people off because it doesn't look like a boat.
Right.
And so I don't know.
But really, it doesn't matter where, as far as position-wise. It's a question of distance.
Yes. Folks that have done the IASCA thing for years may remember the phrase path length difference. And what you want is to minimize the difference between the path lengths for one channel and another. So that's why back in the 90s, when we were building speakers into the floor and we were building kick panels, the idea was to get those speakers similar distances from us to minimize the difference. And that's what we're actually entering in here, is we're actually entering in the path length difference. It's what we enter into all DSPs in one way or another. But once again, you can go in here and change any speaker and then move that speaker to get a different result during your tuning process.
Is that the same interface on the Audison DSP? I know this off topic.
No, this is a new one, and that's one of the reasons I like to call it out, is that on the Audison ones, there's a picture of a car, and people are used to going in and entering the distances. And when the picture of the car went away, it did throw some people. So I like to make sure that I set people up to know what to expect on this one.
Okay.
So this type of software has a lot of elements that we're going to have in our products going forward. The tooltip, info tip, the embedded help, the active mixer. There's a number of functions here you're going to see in the future. You don't happen to have one of these, do you, Steve? I don't.
No. Not this one.
Okay. So
just hold on. I want
downstairs.
Ken, I took some notes here. I want people to understand how important what we just talked about is, because that piece there is very unique in the Marine line. If you're looking for an amplifier, multi-channel, 8 channels, bridgeable to 4, you're looking for, was it 3 zone?
3 zones.
So 3 zone, 8 channel, multi-channel, and DSP all built into the same chassis. That makes it a very, very unique piece within this industry.
And there's something I should have underlined, Ben. Thanks for mentioning that. It is 8 amplified channels plus a 9th pre-out channel.
Oh, okay.
So you can run, you could run 2 speakers in the front. You could run 2 speakers in the stern. You could bridge 4 channels down to 2 to run tower speakers, and then run a 9th channel out to this companion subwoofer amplifier, the Hmd8, which is the same footprint, matches cosmetically, takes 1 RCA in, and it will do 500 watts into a 4 ohm load and 800 watts into a 2 ohm load. So the way this gets used a lot is this powers 2 of the subwoofers in our Marine line and does 800 watts. And there, by the way, there are 24 volt versions of both of these. If you have a
that's interesting to know. So there's 24 volt versions for this series, and what you just described, Ken, is 2 boxes or 2 chassis, 9 channels, DSP, 3 zones.
Over 1600 watts without even going to the lowest impedance theoretical.
Right.
Over 1600 watts in basically a couple of hardback books.
That's a pretty slick power system right there.
I really like it. In fact, we've had a couple of dealers who like the feature set of the Marine amplifier and actually use it in vehicle applications in auto sound. But we've been very happy with the sound quality and the output, and this looks like a category that is just going to grow.
Okay.
All right. So Hcp Marine amplifiers. Now these amplifiers, and I think talked about this a little bit in the setup. These are Marine versions of our Hertz compact power line, and up so far, what we have done is validated an amplifier design in the automotive world, and then made a Marine variant that was rated and tested for Marine application. In the future, we actually are going to reverse that. We're actually going to develop some Marine first products and then make an automotive version of that. That's how important this category has become for us. But in the Marine HCP line, there's corrosion protection with special paint. There's salt fog tested and water jet tested. And what you've got here, we've got a 2 channel that's 120 by 2. I think this is a really good amplifier for a pair of towers. We've got a 4 channel that is 65 by 4. This isn't necessarily one that I would use with towers unless I was bridging it, but I would probably use this just fine for front and rear coaxial speakers in a lot of applications. And then we have a 5 channel, 65 by 4 and 330 by 1. And then we've got a big mono. This is 740 watts into 4 ohms and 1240 watts into 2 ohms. This is a pretty recent addition to the line. And did you have any of these, Steve?
Built to take, you know, the new brothers that are coming in the South line.
I don't know what you're talking about there.
Right, exactly.
And then here is a big 4-channel as well. That is 120 by 4. So we've also got for small craft. These get used a lot on small fishing craft. Not that you know anything about fishing, Ben. You've probably forgotten more than I know about fishing.
Yeah, because, you know, in some boats, space is definitely a concern. We don't have you know, that much space to put, you know, an amplifier, for example. But we still want
this amplifier is really low current draw and very well sealed, and it is set up to, it's the size of a smartphone, as the picture shows. IP64 rated, water jet, corrosion, salt fog. And there is both a 4-channel version and a mono version. The mono version does 300 watts into 2 ohms and 180 watts into 1 ohm. But current draw is a big concern here because a lot of these smaller craft that these go into don't have big battery banks.
So just to be clear, I mean, Steve, a power sports application, motorcycle application too, right? These?
Correct.
Small footprint.
Yeah, these also have been used in side-by-sides and some power sports applications.
Mm-hmm.
And then the 4-channel is 60 by 4 into 4 ohms, and you could bridge it if you wanted to a big 2-channel. So there's my sample system. This is what we're going to put in your boat, Ben.
I don't even have space to put half of that.
Right?
I wish.
But this is basically a slide that I put together to show how we go from soup to nuts. We've got a source, one of several source units, several amplifiers, and I just want to point something out about this picture is that all of the LED lighting matches. Okay, so like we said, this is a really key point. I'm really proud that I was able to find pictures of all of these the same color.
So specifically that hue. Yep.
In the video, when you were showing the video at the beginning, did you notice that they were all the Hertz orange logo in the background?
Yeah.
They're
100%.
very good at that.
I'm sure that was thought out ahead of time.
Now, I think we've got some product. I think Steve has some additional product there that we wanted to be able to
Are we done with the presentation, Ken?
I think that's it. We basically are reliable and better linearity. And if you remember those two things, you know what we're about.
Absolutely. Steve, let's go to you. What else you got to show?
Well, to follow the last segment, pretty much we have the new SLDG woofer, the HMS10 SLDG. As you can see, this one has the Paintable Grills and the highly reflective cone area, so the LEDs can, you know, light up pretty good.
Well, hold that up again, Steve. That is notice that for infinite baffle operation, show them the magnet. Look how deep it is.
Yeah, it's a pretty big gun.
Yeah, you need to have a very deep structure to operate infinite baffle.
Yeah. Don't think you only have 6 inches. You need more than that. Gotcha. What else you got, Steve?
That's that pretty much it. Well, I got the packaging, the beautiful packaging.
I want to see that. That's why we're here.
When you have matching products on the shelves that attract, you know.
It looks like high-end electronics, you know, for a consumer who may not know the brand and just coming in and seeing a pile of these, it just looks.
And they all match. So, I mean, when you have a nice, section in the store with all those products, they stand out pretty much. So
I've been doing this over 30 years, and one of the things that I'm always amazed about is how often the carton becomes part of the presentation. Because if you've got a salesperson that hasn't memorized every single bullet point for every single product in their store, and that's a lot of stuff. You pick up that box and you see all those little orange squares there. Those are the icons you saw in my presentation.
Those are your key
You can
points.
look at the box and say, hey, this is rated IP64, or hey, this is rated IP66. And you get very quickly what you need to know to talk to the customer. And a lot of these cartons are merchandised where the store staff can grab one. And if they're not merchandised that way, you could. But it's really easy to look at the carton and make sure you're talking about the correct product.
I think we did a great presentation. I know, Ken, you kind of went through certain things quite quickly, but let's talk about something important here. How's the inventory looking, Steve?
Very good. We actually have a big. Currently, we have good stock status. We have a big shipment coming in about 7 to 10 days ish, landing in Montreal. So we're good. We're very good. As Ken mentioned earlier in the presentation, they have their own manufacturer in China, so makes it very easy for them to manage everything and to keep us as well on the loop and informed if anything has, happens with the situation, because there's already, since last year and the year before, there's been issues with electronics. So, but so far, it's looking very good for this year. So
I'm going to sum this up, gentlemen. I think what we've presented here is an opportunity to partner up with something a little bit unique in the marine audio line, just the heritage and the pedigree that is Hertz Audio with Electromedia in Europe. The fact that they control their own manufacturing, especially all across the speaker line. It's a complete line, source unit, amplifiers, speakers, towers, right down to DSP, which kind of segues to my final point. If you got a serious customer for marine, like, this is a brand with a product offering that could really deliver top level, customization, optimization because of the cancellation with the DSP, and just fun, because at the end of the day, marine is all about fun. So I think that kind of sums it up. And to what you said, Steve, the fact that the inventory is flowing well.
Yeah.
The one thing I'll throw in there is that marine needs to be fun, and it also needs to be a business. And I think Automobility has done a great job of setting things up so that there's a good profit margin for customers that are involved here, so that we can get the return that we need to make our commercial activities work the way they need to. And if you're working with a supplier who doesn't get that, it can be really frustrating. So
yeah, frustrating, and at times not profitable, which is not what anybody wants. I mean, there's a business to operate, and we want to deliver everything top shelf to our customers. So, guys, with that, Ken, I want to thank you for taking the time today. Excellent presentation. Thank you for enlightening us. I hope we get an opportunity to talk a little bit more in depth about DSP from Electromedia at large, which I know we will a little bit later on in the season. So, on that note, thank you so much.
Always a pleasure, man.
Thanks a lot, Ken.
Hey, guys.
Last note with you, Steve. It hasn't been a super long time, the relationship with you guys and Hertz, but I see that it's going really well, getting tons of support. I even heard Ken's coming down to Montreal to do some internal training right at headquarters.
Yeah, finally we have a chance to keep, with all the situations that have happened in the last year and a half. We all are aware of that, but now it's good to see that we're getting a bit back to normal-ish type of living. The fact that Ken will have the chance to come in and, in person do trainings.
And that's with all your reps, right? So all your dealers, your Automobility rep is about to get
rep, tech staff.
Nice.
This is something we needed, in-person training for actually, bring it to the next level. Because don't get me wrong here, no pun intended, but virtual trainings are fine.
It's fun, but not in depth and hands-on when you can press buttons and everything in person.
For DSP training, you need to hear it, and that's the key. So yeah, we're gonna do that in the following weeks. When everything hopefully will get lifted in Quebec and mostly in Canada, we will have more in-depth trainings and also dealer trainings as well coming up later this year. So
I want to take this opportunity also to remind dealers, when you're, if you're a Hertz dealer or you're looking to become a Hertz dealer, of course, contact Automobility, but you're also running some social media under Hertz Marine Canada. So if you guys are dealers and you haven't connected with their social media, there's always opportunity there. They showcase your stuff. Great to showcase Canadian work through Canadian dealers.
Hertz Audio Canada.
I'm sorry, Hertz Audio Canada. There you go. On that note, Steve, I think we got it all, man. Good job. Yep. Thanks for coming on. Great T-shirt. I know that's a quadruple XL European, but
yeah,
whatever.
Exactly. It's a bit tight on me. So.
But it's good on you, buddy. Thanks. Until next time, man. I'll see you later.
All right. Thanks, man.
Take care.
Bye.
And there you have it, folks. That wraps up our marine audio sessions with Hertz Audio with Steve Colombo over at Automobility. And big shout out to Ken Ward from Electromedia, who came in and gave us a little bit of education on everything Hertz Marine Audio. I want to remind you to continue tuning in to cmanetworks.com right up until Wednesday, April 6th, as we continue our marine audio sessions every single day, one-on-one brand. There's the brands right there. All the biggest brands that you want to hear about, we're presenting them one brand, one day at a time, right through until Wednesday, April 6th. Make sure you visit our website, cmanetworks.com. You can search through hundreds of videos through our new search bar tools, so definitely check that out. So on that note, thank you for tuning in to this session of CMA Connected, presented by SiriusXM. I'm your host, Ben Wu. Until next time, we connect.